the aforementioned look back at the 2023 Miami recruiting class. And of course, as soon as I go to it, they decide to pop up an ad. And therefore, we
always
knock down. There we go. And we've got this. So let's blow it up and start with the top of the class with 26 signed. That top 4 players, that's a heck of a class right there to start out.
I mean, one would think for sure Fred Langston. Sorry, we're going to just hit that real quick. Appreciate the super chat, my boy. And hopefully you're enjoying this breakdown as we get it going. Francis Mauigoa, nailed on start at right tackle since day one. Probably a 3-year player and a top 50 draft pick leaving after next year, if not a first rounder. Yeah, dog. That one works. I think that was appropriately ranked, rated, and he's just been the dominant force that we think, or we thought that he was going to be. Samson Okunlola, I mentioned him earlier, not found his footing yet. This is a guy, and there were rumors of his lack of upper body strength that I think were true from what we've seen moving into the collegiate level. So he's taken a longer arc of development than even fellow 5-star Francis Mauigoa. So this is a guy who I hope will rotate in along the offensive line this year and fancy himself as a starter next year. We will see what happens with Samson Okunlola, but in recent retrospect, maybe a little overrated. And there were whispers of that, even from when he was in high school, but, was the jury's still not out on him. He did also get injured early on in his freshman year. And then, so not the 24 season, but 23. In that year, he got injured and then had to sit out the rest of the year, even from practices. So it's just, you have a day one starter and then a guy who redshirts and is starting his ascension, hopefully. So, the 5-star talent, I think, is there. But we need to see some of that. Ruben Bain being the next one on the list, underrated. He was underrated as a recruit. They've done some re-leveling. All of these sites like to do revisionist history and kind of change some ratings when you're not actively looking at them, like day by day. But yeah, this is a guy who should have been a 5-star. He was just a dominant force. You saw it as a freshman. Unfortunately, he was injured the majority of this past season after tweaking his hamstring, rolling his ankle in the opener at Florida. And yeah, he was a shell, 60% of himself. But that's a guy who, honestly, you need to put up either near or at. They're playing music in this other tab. Lord Jesus, sorry. Weird when it pops up in the headphones. But anyways, Ruben Bain at or near the top of the class. This is one where your return on investment has already been positive. Like, he's exceeded his ranking already. Mark Fletcher going to be your number 1 running back this year. Another guy who I know was rated higher than that. Hold on. Mark Fletcher recruiting notebook. If I go back to the recruiting notebook that I wrote and posted on National Signing Day, load for me, please. His ranking was excuse me. They bumped him up. Yeah, that's what I thought. He was 243 in the class, number 15 running back nationally, number 48 in the state of Florida at the time of his signing in December. And then now they're like, well, we should actually move him up a little bit. And I think that this is more where he should be. He's going to step into the number 1 running back role next season for the Hurricanes. I'm excited to see what he does. And he's just big and physical, like he's close. I think he's like 6'2". I don't think he's 6'1.5 inches. Like, he's tall. But yeah, big back. And like in the literal sense, not the metaphorical sense. Jaden Wayne, they were right when they said that he was overrated as a 5-star because he was a 5-star early in the process, and then they ended up dropping him down a little bit. Seattle native who transferred to IMG for his senior year, and he just didn't have the kind of twitchiness that you need to play at this level, and got homesick and then transferred home after 1 year. So that's one that you're underwater on your investment in terms of recruiting from what he delivered. Robbie Washington, same kind of a thing. This is a speedy slot receiver, transitioned to corner. During this past season, Mario Cristobal spoke very highly of his potential at cornerback, but Robbie Washington wanted to play receiver, so he is transferring elsewhere to go and do that. Didn't really do much at Miami at all, so that's one that's underwater negative kind of return situation. Ray Joseph, make it or break it this year, my boy. Like, the punt returns have not been really explosive. He's averaging like 8.5 yards a return. He hasn't had a touchdown. The couple of times he's gotten touches on offense, he's gotten tripped up and things like that. I think that he's on pace to still have, a good impact. And he plays slot and was blocked by the all-time career leading receiver at the same position. You know what I mean? So that's tough, but he has all the talent in the world. So the jury's still out, but Kenson saying that a Theron Collier type season from Ray Joseph would be welcomed. Absolutely. Riley Williams, very talented tight end, also from Portland. So this was a lot of West Coast recruits. Mario Cristobal's first recruiting class. He has since transferred back to Oregon State. Excuse me. So that's a guy with, a negative output here. Robert Stafford really brought onto the team because he was fast and he got ran by on multiple kick return touchdowns, and is leaving because his skills at cornerback were not good enough to find the field, even for the kind of secondary that Miami was fielding. So that's another one where what you thought you were going to get and what you got didn't match up in the bad way. Damari Brown, all the talent in the world, but he's another player who got injured in the opener and basically missed the entire season. He played 25 snaps, I want to say, in the Syracuse game, but didn't play another game after that. Outside of that. So in 13 games he played in, if you aggregate what he did in the Florida game and in the Syracuse game, he played about a game's worth of snaps. Now, he's super physical. He's the better of the Brown brothers. That's why you let Devontae go to Florida State, because you get the talented one, the more talented one. But yeah, he just needs to stay healthy and earn one of the spots in the secondary, whether he moves inside to safety like his father Selwyn, whether he's outside, inside, at corner, whatever. But this is a guy with all the physical talent in the world. His development was a little bit curtailed by the injury this past year, though. Collins Anchampong, big, nasty defensive end, tore up his knee as a senior, came here, redshirted, and was kind of on scout team and got homesick, and he transferred to UCLA after the 2023 season. So, yeah, that's one where you thought you might have had something, and especially at his verified size of like 6'7", almost 6'8", 255, 260 pounds, somebody who you thought was a more physically developed Gregory Rousseau that you could use outside and inside, but he's not that kind of athlete. So anyways, Malik Bryant, this is a guy. Yes, Kenson, as in Mr. Brown, the AP for Miramar. Yeah, those are his son. You didn't know that? And you didn't know that he played at Miami? Yeah, dog. Yeah. That's funny because it's just Mr. Brown. Yeah, exactly. But anyways, Malik Bryant has been bounced around between linebacker and edge. Hopefully, he I think that he's a better player at edge. He was a see ball, get ball kind of guy in high school. Really started developing, and then he got rotation snaps at that position. And if you guys don't remember, he had that incredibly huge fake field goal stop against Virginia Tech in that game. So, and this is a guy who, when you're facing more athletic quarterbacks, you can put him in and just have him chase him down from defensive end and like spy and things like that. So this is a guy who's starting really to come into his own. Excited to see what he does. Josh Horton, the time is nowish that I would like to see return on that investment, especially defensive tackle going into year 3, similar to Ahmad Moten last year. Like we can get that growth and development, that grown man strength at the point of attack. This is a kid who lived in the backfield in high school. Same state championship team as Air Noland at Langston Hughes, their first championship team since that school's only been around for 10 or 12 years. This is a talented guy. Hopefully now starts his clock for when he gets on the field. Popo Raul Aguirre, this is a guy, I think he's exceeded even his ranking so far. He was the first guy off the bench at linebacker. Should have the inside track to a starting position. He is the kind of physical that you need to have at linebacker. Big, strong, fast, had a fumble recovery for a touchdown, all of those things already. This is a guy that's a really good get out of the state of Georgia. Antonio Tripp was the center of the future, but he has short arms for his position, and that's something that was going to really have him behind others. And then he transferred out, which is why Miami has gotten transfers in at center for the last couple of years, because that's where he was going to slot in, but unfortunately he did not have the range. Chris Johnson Jr., this is one that people are going to really debate. Because if you play the College Football 25 video game, you and I know speed kills. And number 24, Chris Johnson Jr., was like CJ2K from the NFL. If you give him a little bit of space, that kid is gone. You saw it on a swing pass for a touchdown this last year, on the kick returns. He's a more straight line guy. He doesn't have a ton of wiggle. So he kept getting tripped up by his shoestring. You're thinking, oh my God, he's going to break one. This guy is going to go to SMU, and he's going to be Brashard Smith part 2, and he's going to eat in that inside zone run game. He didn't have that takeoff ability. Like he does have it in the video game, but not necessarily in real life. So but he's one of the players who's left that I really think could have had a role here. He's a casualty of numbers because Miami had 5 running backs who reasonably could have started last year. Damian Martinez, Mark Fletcher, Jordan Lyle, Chris Johnson, and A.J. Allen. All 5 of those backs literally could have started. So there's not enough snaps, basically. And he left to go be the man. And I hope that for him. But that's going to be one of the ones we look back on and be like, how is he a 3-star? Should have been a 4-star. And he was a multiple-time state champ sprinter in high school, which y'all know. Tommy Kinsler, is he still on the roster or did he transfer out? If he's, I don't remember. I don't think so. Oh, dope. Okay, cool. So if he's still here, then that would be a real addition, or a good retention. You see the size, 6'6", 330. Whether he plays outside or inside, I think that this is a guy with the kind of build that you need. So there are some offensive linemen who take time to develop as a 3-star. So I'm fine with that. Bobby Washington, this is a recruiting success story. This is a guy who's developed into a very, very athletic. Oh, he's not developed into his athleticism. He's been very athletic, but now he's starting to put all that athleticism together on the field. When he got on specials, he started flashing and making plays. And then he earned his way into the base defense even, and was making plays. I think he caused a fumble. He's around the football. He's rangy and athletic. Between him and Cameron Bobby Pruitt, those two, Bobby Washington and Bobby Pruitt, you got something at the athletic linebacker. Tall, lean, 6'3", 200, he was 215 as a recruit, probably up to 225 now. That's a kid who's going to see the field in multiple instances. So, that's a recruiting win for sure. Recruiting win, unfortunately not for us, is Caleb Spencer. He left after his first year and transferred home to Virginia Tech. and has been a nailed-on starter for them. Had an interception, multiple tackles in the game against Miami this past year. So yeah, this is a guy who has stepped into a starting ACC level player at a legacy brand team. It's just not Miami as the legacy brand team. So yeah, that's a recruiting win for Miami to get him out of Virginia, but his career is taking shape elsewhere. Emory Williams, you get what you get. You know, I said it at the time of signing that he was a program guy. Actually, if I give me 2 seconds, because since I'm in my 23 notebooks, I'm going to go back into all of them and I'm going to find exactly what I wrote. And I'm going to tell you all right meow. Well, as I'm looking for this, the other part of the situation here is the absence of Jaden Rashada, right? Because Jaden Rashada, 4-star, 5-star, was the quarterback in that class. And then the University of Florida, shout out to George in the comments, decided to make a Godfather offer of $8.5 or $13 million of fake monopoly money to get him off of his Miami commitment. And then we know everything that's followed from there. So that Jaden Rashada sized hole is the one that Emory Williams ostensibly was brought in to fill. I will say from my Miami outlook in the recruiting notebook that I wrote for him, Williams has talent, but he's definitely more of a developmental player at quarterback for Miami. With the talent on the roster and the development needed from Williams to be game ready at this level, fully expected to be 3+ years until he sees the field. I wrote that then. Was he a measure better than that to win the backup role as a freshman? Yeah. If Tyler Van Dyke was throwing the ball to Miami players instead of the other team's jersey, you don't see Emory Williams on the field. You definitely had to go get somebody for last year. And then in the bowl game, when you saw what that was, you definitely had to go get somebody for next year too. And then you get Luke Nickel behind that and things like that. He's a developmental dude. He's a guy that honestly, he's played more meaningful snaps than you would project from somebody of his stature. Like Smitty, his career is already nearly over. He's sitting in the portal. Oh, well, sorry, that's Rashada. Yeah. But like that, yeah, I mean, I think that he's a nice dude and everything. I know that, he like posted something on Twitter like, hey man, I don't understand it, but God got me. I just got to work. I understand that you went 4 for 17 in the ball game, my boy. Like, all due respect, man. Like, hey, now in a similar way, and Kenson got me thinking about my teaching career. When I first got to Miramar, it got worse before it got better because I was the third director in 3 years, and I had to tear down that program and rebuild it. Right. So my second year and my third year in that position, when we got straight D's at districts, superior, excellent, good, fair, poor, we got straight fair, 4th division ratings on stage. If they would have went and said, hey, we want to bring in somebody that comes from a superior program background and move forward in a different direction, I would have understood that. That's the situation that Emory Williams is in. You got straight fairs and straight pours in your last couple performances, and now you're talking about, well, they're looking at bringing in somebody else. Damn right they are. You don't got the range, my boy. You're not. He's barely Miami caliber. I mean, and I even mean that as a backup. All due respect. So again, no ill will to the person, but performance-wise, doesn't have the range.
Because it's only one performance, but still, you
it's
need your
not only
backup
one performance because you're going. No, I'm going back to his freshman year.
I understand. Yeah, but I'm just highlighting the 4 for 17. You expect your backup to be able to come in and perform capably and give your team a chance to win. He blew a 10-point lead. The team blew a 10-point lead, but obviously he was at the controls. And I just look at somebody like him and I think, I know there's a competitive nature for most of these guys that pushes against this because they have to constantly think, hey, if I was good enough to get here, I'm really good. And they see themselves in the best light. And I respect that, but you have to be realistic and think, look at the position I'm in. I'm probably making a little bit of NIL money, unlike what would have happened to me 5 years ago. I'm
Mhm.
surrounded by some of the best coaches in the business at an elite university. I'm gaining all sorts of resources and connections. I am setting myself up to be a coach. I should take advantage of all this training as a different career path.
Yeah, honestly, that would be what I would do. And I get it, like, players want to play. Like, I get that he wants to do that, and I'm not going to begrudge him that, but like, let's also be real about these things. And as I'm looking, does it have it? I was looking on his roster page to see if his major was listed on there. But
So
whatever it
if you're
is, I hope you're studying well, because I mean, you're going to go pro in something other than sports. I mean, well, at least sports performance, but
So is that a
yeah.
slight addendum to your recruiting rules in regards to signing a quarterback? If you're the ilk of Miami, does that
Mhm.
mean more or less a top 15 quarterback? Something like that?
No, I mean, you need one. Hopefully, you're able to back that up. I mean, you're not going to get the number one recruit every single year, a la my San Diego State dynasty on College Football 25. I literally just stack 5 stars so that they don't go to other teams. This is real life. That's not going to happen. You have to have a quarterback every year. The thing is, the issue comes, and like the issue that Miami is trying to overcome is you've now, or with Emory Williams followed by Judd Anderson, now you've taken 2 developmental players back to back. That's the issue, right? Had you taken a Dante Moore, right, who wanted to come to Miami, but that's another story, and then you back that up. If Florida hadn't, lost their ever-loving minds and offered $13.5 million, then you have a 4-star, borderline 5-star in this very class. So you eventually have to address the level of talent. It cannot only be roster filler. There needs to be some star power as well. But regardless of its roster filler or star power, I still think you need to get a high school quarterback every single year. Jackson Carver, the tight end in this class, 3-sport athlete, lacrosse, hockey, and football. Four sport actually: lacrosse, hockey, football, and track. I believe between a couple of different schools and everything. Big kid, lots of talent. Probably takes a couple of years to develop at this point, which is why we've gone out and kind of recruited over him. So we'll see what his path is, whether it's here or elsewhere. Shamar Kirk, JUCO transfer. Um, Decent talent, but nothing special. And he's already transferred out. He was, I mean, like 2 catches a year type thing. Demetrius Freeney, I don't even think he made it to the fall, if he did. But yeah, that's another guy that we brought in, hopefully as a like immediate plug and play kind of a dude out of JUCO. That didn't work out. Frankie Tinalau, he's the native Australian kid who moved to Miami and came to Miami. He's since transferred out. Definitely like a 3 or 4 year developmental lineman, but massive, massive kid. I remember seeing him early on in his senior high school season when he visited for a game. 6'5", 315 might be short selling it. That kid is huge. So I think if he drops down a level of competition, that might be better suited to his skill set and taking a longer term developmental timeline. Marcellus Pulliam, another kid who's already transferred out at linebacker. He was battling like a Popo Aguirre, but Aguirre obviously, again, if we're talking CFB 25, Marcellus Pulliam kind of had the normal dev trait, and Popo Aguirre the elite dev trait. So, the growth rates were different. He's gone. And Dylan Joyce, love it. Starting punter, like 3rd team all conference. Didn't get much work last year because Miami didn't punt, but 1.5 times a game. But nailed on starter and been a seamless transition from Lou Headley, the previous Australian punter. That one is an unqualified win for Miami in terms of recruiting, especially in terms of what you get back. So yeah, that's a great get.
There it is, the 2023 class review. And again, those first 5 or 6 names just jumped off the page at me.
Yeah. And they should. And that's where those are going to be your star players. Those are going to be the names that you know. As you go down, those are going to be your workhorse dudes. Those are going to be your Anez Cooper, starter, honorable mention all conference. Not going to be at the top of the list when we review his class in a couple of years. You know what I mean? But you get starting level players in many spots. It's like the NFL draft. Your first rounders are your superstars, but the starting lineup probably going to be a lot of 2s, 3s, and 4s, round draft picks, which is fine. You can go pro and you can do that. Like, you can have those players have a big impact, but you have to have the star players as well. So I think today's Wednesday. So yes, today I actually released the recruiting rules recap for this current recruiting class for Miami and made that very point. There are star players in this class, but the thing for Miami is you have to recruit from the top of the list down. Not saying, okay, 8 of your top 10 players locally or in the state are going to go to teams that are not Miami, and you're okay with that, and starting your shopping list further down. No, Jeremiah Smith, all of these dudes at the top of the list. That's where it needs to start. You cannot just give those players away to other teams. That's the difference, right? So if you're talking about a Julio Jones, if you're talking about an AJ Green, if you're talking about a Ryan Williams, if you're talking about a Jeremiah Smith, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, all of these dudes with names, superstar players, those are the ones that you have to get. You cannot only have a roster of, 3rd, 4th, 5th round draft picks. You can win with that. You can go 7-5, 8-4 with that. But you need guys to be game changers. You remember the 1 year of Amon Richards? Remember what he was as a game changer, right? That dude who Alabama wanted in the run of all of those receivers got him. That kind of player. Those players exist. You cannot let those players go. So just like Mark was saying, as we, retrospectively went through the class of 2023, at the top of your class, you need to have names that when a national pundit who's not a Miami fan, not a Miami blogger, not a Miami content creator, pulls up the list, right? And then sees the list and says, oh, shit. Wow, I remember all of those names. If it was Florida from 2 classes ago, top DJ Lagway, you pull in somebody from Walla Walla, Washington, and show them that list. I know that. Those are the kind of players you have to have. Hopefully, Miami's on the path to getting them. I don't think they really did a great job in this class of 2025 on that, by the way. But, hey, hopefully we will get there. But that has been our look back at the class of 2023.
I saw a site that had listed the 2 Super Bowl lineups from Kansas City and Philadelphia with their recruiting rankings. And what was very noticeable, and of course, you're going to have your guys that came out of nowhere to become Super Bowl starters after being very lowly regarded, but generally the guys were highly regarded. I think the numbers that I most recently saw, 40 to 45% of 5 stars are NFL players. It drops to 10 to 12% for 4 stars, and it's about 3% for 3 stars. And then you have people, as soon as I utter those numbers, who come back at me and say, well, I saw this site that listed how many 3 stars there are in the NFL versus 5 stars, and there's more 3 stars in the NFL. Well, you don't understand that there's only 35, roughly 5
32.
stars in each class. Yeah.
32 is a pretty firm number. It's 32 5 stars and then thousands of 3 stars. Like, it's exponential. Like, it's not even, it's not even close.
What stood out to me looking at those recruiting rankings for the Super Bowl lineups is the Eagles went out and they selected 4 of those Georgia players on defense, and they were all top 70 players overall
Yep.
in that class.
And then you remember Jalen Carter had that driving incident or whatever in the draft process, and then fell down. And we're like, don't let him go to Philadelphia. Somebody picked this kid. And then it's just like, all right, cool. And they're like, look, we did our due diligence and everything. We're good with it. And he's arguably the best defensive lineman in the league right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and wrecked shop on Sunday. My God. But like, those are the kind of players that Miami needs to be getting. And hopefully the ones that they have avoid injury, Ruben Bain, and take a big step of development into year 2, Justin Scott. And, you actually have those so that, yeah, when we continue to go back and do these, when you look at the top of the list are game changers. And then you have development from the rest of the list to be program players, to starters, to standout players. And if you get one of those guys from the middle part of the class to be a superstar, then you're really doing something right.
So again, folks, the Eagles took 1/3 of the Georgia defense from 2021 that was generational and just plucked it out and then won a Super Bowl 4 years later with it.
Yep.
It's pretty incredible when you think of it that way.
Yeah.
3
and
years
to Spenny's
later.
point, Carter was a top 3 talent in that draft and didn't go top 3 because he got drafted by Philly. You know what I mean? Like, and it just, yeah, things like that. So, hopefully we'll see. It's good to hear that Miami, in the conversation before this class retrospective is, being connected with, Tristan Keys, the best wide receiver in America, whether he's from South Florida or not. That makes me feel good. The offensive tackle from Missouri, same thing. Like you gotta get the superstars, especially at well, I mean, if you can get them at every position, then you turn into my San Diego State Aztecs. If you can get them in a couple really needed positions at the time, that's how you become Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, what Texas is building into, things like that. Ohio State, like I hate to say it, but proof's in the pudding. So yeah, hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. Definitely will do, probably another one of those next week and look forward to the season and seeing what Miami can put on the field.